Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Aaron Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, and I'm joined this week and every single week by my dad, Jeff Lapidus, and my husband, Robert Markham, who is a life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to create an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want to do in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day and make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe.
Well, there are many ways, before we get into our topics of the morning, there are many ways that you can keep in touch with us throughout the week. You can log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner is the Contact Us button. Send us an email with a request for a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you just happen to have a question, we have gotten the website email solved, so any emails you send, we will receive. And in the lower left-hand side of the screen is a pop-up box. It says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We send it out to you every single month, and we've just got a couple Saturdays left in this newsletter. So, Rob, give us a quick overview of what is in our September newsletter.
The September 2024 newsletter has some great articles. The first one being State Income Tax Across the Map. It has a great infographic of the continental United States and the corresponding tax rates for each state. Missouri has a tax rate between 2.5% and 5%. Interesting little tidbit. New Hampshire only taxes dividends and interest, and Washington taxes only capital gains. How about that? Our next article is It's Complicated, Inheriting IRAs and Retirement Plans. If you've listened to us for any length of time, you know that the Secure Act of 2019 dramatically changed the way beneficiaries inherit IRA and retirement accounts. This is a great primer to help you keep abreast of some of these changes. It has a great infographic there also with RMD tables and the corresponding age in which you'd have to take them. And our next article, Making the Most of Your Credit Card. You know, we all have credit cards, but are we utilizing them in the most efficient way possible? This article has some great ideas about how to protect your purchases, building your credit history, and taking advantage of the popular peripheral benefits that I know we all love and enjoy. And the last one, can you put the brakes on rising auto insurance premiums? We were just talking about this on the way in. The first thing you want to do is check your coverage and review it and make sure you're not overinsured. I was for like 5 years. I had a very old car that I kept full insurance on, and it just didn't make sense. Next thing you want to do is ask your insurer about discounts. There are some that vary by state and insurer. There are low mileage driver rewards, accident-free drivers. There's even some anti-theft devices you can put on your car to bring that rate down a little bit. And the last thing I'll leave you with is you may want to take a defensive driving course. A lot of times, if it occupies 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday, which kind of stinks, but you will save anywhere from 1 year's worth of premium discount to upwards of 3. So you could have 3 years of forward savings on or just giving up a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. So it's certainly a worthwhile investment if you're concerned about bringing those auto premiums down. And that is your 2024 September newsletter.
Awesome. Thank you. You can access it on our website, jblfinancial.com, in that lower left-hand pop-up box. Or if you've already signed up, you'll just keep receiving it every single month in your email. We wanted to kick today's show off with a rerun of, what should have been a rerun of our webinar that was scheduled for Thursday morning. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties. We had quite a few individuals sign up to hear us talking about mastering the transition from work to retirement. And we wanted to take this opportunity not just to provide that content to anyone that's decided to tune in this morning instead of Thursday morning, but we really feel as though this topic is essentially what we would consider the content of a first coaching session with clients. So I thought we would kick that off this morning. We are also going to attempt to be able to send this out to everyone that was signed up for the webinar, so they can still have the benefit of the content, even though they didn't get it at the timing that we had originally planned. So we apologize about that, but we're doing our best to make up for it.
Yeah, and the first thing that we ask anyone that comes to visit with us is, first question, tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you hope we can help. Really important question. So that what we're trying to do is to find out right on the front is, what are your goals, what are your objectives, and also what are your questions?
What's most important to you? We want to make sure that we help get those questions answered because, Dad, as you always say, our goal is to provide clarity.
Exactly.
During that first coaching session. Confidence, and really the confidence that most people feel after they've left from a first coaching session is from the clarity that they have on not just their numbers, but what the glide path is to get them to retirement.
And in many cases, it's also not just confidence, but it's also confirmation.
Absolutely.
They're on track, etc. So let's talk a little bit about our friends Joe and Sally. They let us know that they're both 66 years old. And they want to see if they can retire at the end of 2025 when they both reach their normal retirement ages, which is cool. Joe's just a few months older than Sally, so they will retire as they turn 67. Joe works as a salesperson, and Sally is a nurse at one of our large local medical centers here in the city. They're pretty fun. They have, they're like many folks, they have a family. They've been good savers. They've attempted to be good investors over time, but they did have quite a few questions.
The first one being, do we have enough to retire? Second one, what do we do about health insurance? And lastly, how do we get the money we've been saving all these years out of our retirement accounts?
I would say if these are not the top 3 questions that almost everyone has when they come in to see us for the first time, that they're at least in the top 5 of questions that people have when they come to see us for the first time.
And we're also answering these questions as a normal course for us during each coaching session that we have, whether they're asked or not.
Absolutely, because 2 of these questions really center around cash flow game planning, and that is what one of our primary objectives is during our first coaching session. Are we on track for your goal? In Joe and Sally's case, we've got about a year and a quarter to see if if they're going to be able to meet that goal.
They also let us in on a few other additional pieces of information. They're spending about $5,000 a month, and at full retirement age, Joe's salary will be $2,500, and it'll be $1,250 for his wife, Sally.
Perfect. So we've got some of the important facts out of the way. And why don't we start with their top question. Do we have enough to retire? We're going to use Joe and Sally's numbers for this formula, but we feel as though this is something that all of you, while you're listening to us, can write the numbers down so you have an idea of what the formula is, and then later you can plug your own numbers in.
It's a secret that every week is not a secret.
Right. It's the worst kept secret of retirement planning. We like to call it your magic number. Have you saved enough in order to retire? What is that number? And the great thing is, it doesn't have to be over $1 million necessarily. Everyone's number is a little bit different based on their income need and their circumstances.
So again, what happens is the amount of capital that you need is going to be based upon how much income that we need to replace. So let's talk about them specifically. As they mentioned, they want $5,000 a month after taxes. We know that, and basically that matches their current after-tax spending. But they're also saving $500 per month right now, an additional savings over and above their retirement savings. So really, they only need $4,500.
And so I just want to make a quick note about that savings. So we see quite a few people that are natural planners. They save throughout the year for something specific. Maybe they are simulating an escrow for their own taxes, or they are putting money aside for Christmas or for vacations. If you are following along at home and you are setting aside money, but you are setting it aside for a specific purpose and then spending it throughout the year or on a specific thing during the year, we want you to keep that dollar amount in your income goal. Joe and Sally let us know that they were creating after-tax savings. They were essentially building up that vault that we talk about so often, and they had no plans unless an emergency arose to spend that money. So that's why we felt comfortable saying they say they need $5,000, but really we can subtract another $500 from that, because in retirement we don't have to save, we just don't spend. And since we're looking at funding to their income need, that we don't have to create that additional income to create savings.
So we're in a situation where we need to generate $4,500 per month for them. We naturally are going to increase that after-tax amount to a pre-tax amount, because most of their inflows are going to be pre-tax amounts. So we increase that by 20%, which gives us a total cash flow need of $5,400. Now the fun starts. We begin to take away what we know their inflows are going to be.
And the first inflow we're going to turn on would be that Social Security for both Joe and Sally, and that's $3,750 a month. So we minus the $3,750 off the $5,400, and that leaves us with a deficit of $1,650. And we know we have to annualize that, so we scale that up over 12 months, and that leaves us with a hole of $19,800.
Right, so that is the portion of their income that their investments will be required to support over a long period of time.
So now what we're talking about is what I like to call the milk money. How much capital do we need using a prudent rate of withdrawal, which we like to use 4%? How much capital do they need? Well, if they basically take $19,800 divided by 4%, that means they need $495,000.
So they need $495,000 in order to sustain about a $20,000 rate of withdrawal on an annual basis.
Exactly. But we also know that they have some other needs.
That's right. We had a longer chat with them about some of the other upcoming expenses that they've already planned. Well, they are planning to spend money on in the next couple of years. And
I like to think of these as capital consumption. Typically one time, not necessarily ongoing expenses that they're going to require, and that happens. In their case, they don't have a wedding, but they have told us that they do plan to do a kitchen remodel, estimated cost about $75,000. And in 2 years, they're going to want to be purchasing a new car. We won't debate about purchase versus lease, but at this moment. But
sure.
And so we'll put in $40,000 for that. And so taking the milk money
of the $495,000
plus the kitchen remodel plus the new car, the total amount of capital they would require at this moment is $610,000. It's a good number. So then what we do is we look at their sources, right?
Absolutely. And in Joe's case, he has a 401k that has $800,000 in it. Sally's 403b has $350,000 in it. And they also have a small Roth account with $20,000 in it. So all told, they have over $1.1 million.
Comparing that to 610, that's a big woohoo.
That's fantastic. That means that they have more than enough capital to support their current income need.
And their capital projects.
That's exactly right. And I just wanted to point out, we did not increase the car or the kitchen to incorporate taxes because our goal is going to be to try to keep them in a similar tax bracket over a long period of time. So hopefully that's already kind of been incorporated into those numbers.
Yeah, we also didn't get to incorporate, the fun.
The fun?
And the fun is that, Joe and Sally are with us. They're in our conference room. We have a very large 6 by 8 foot electronic whiteboard.
And we draw this on the board for you.
And we like to play, as we like to call it, This Is Your Life.
With your numbers.
With your numbers. And so what happens is that we really took this whole nebulous concept of retirement and really got it down to its basics, which is it's an algebra problem. We were able to show them their inflows. We were able to show them their outflows. We also determined how much capital they need. And so they really could see that. And what's fun for them is that, we talked about the fact they need $610,000. They have about double that amount. So their withdrawal rate, instead of being at 4%, it's somewhere in the area of
2.5 or something.
So they're well within the safety zone. And what that means for them is that as future projects occur, they should be able to deal with these. Should they need to or desire to raise their level of income, that's kind of cool. If they decide they wanted to for whatever reason. If you notice in this particular case, they didn't have pensions.
Right.
So what happened was that they might consider, maybe one of them or both of them would say, hey, why don't we put off taking our Social Security benefit
a couple more years?
Exactly. We can also measure the effect, and we know that we can make IRA distributions in lieu of retirement plan distributions. What that will do is provide the surviving spouse with an opportunity to have a higher guarantee base, because we know at the death of one of the spouses, they're going to lose the lower Social Security benefit.
Exactly. So the great thing is they have quite a few different options. And we're going to talk about next some of the mechanics of getting those things started. And the nice thing is when we discuss what are the nuts and bolts, essentially, of how do we start our Social Security benefit, I think what that does is help put into perspective for people that a lot of these decisions do not have to be made years in advance. They can be slightly moving targets, which means if things change for you over time, especially for Joe and Sally over the next year, maybe they do say, hey, we would like to put that Social Security benefit off a little bit longer, or we want to turn it on a little bit sooner. Or if Joe or Sally has to retire earlier, they know what the timing is going to look like to get some of these things started. So first, let's talk about Social Security and how we get that started. You want to start your application no more than 3 months in advance from the month that you would like your benefit to begin. So that's the earliest that you can apply. Since COVID, if you are applying for your Social Security benefit, most likely you will not be able to get an in-office visit. So if you go to the Social Security office, they're not going to help you enroll in person any longer. They have begun working from home for the majority of their staff and a lot of the processors. So that means this is an online or over-the-phone process. The great thing is if you're working with us, we created a little step-by-step that when we set up your game plan, meaning we've determined Joe and Sally, they're going to turn their Social Securities on as they respectively turn 67. We'll put a little note in our system 3 months in advance from when they turn 65 so we can send that out to them. Gives them the how you log in. I call it the GPS of Social Security. So you just make sure you're on the right track for getting enrolled. Again, 3 months in advance is the earliest that you can apply. If you apply the same month you'd like your benefit to begin, you probably won't see your first benefit check that month, but they will process it for the next available date. So this is something that can be decided on a shorter term basis if that's necessary for your plan.
The next thing we're going to discuss is their transition onto Medicare.
That's a great point.
And in that case, we're going to send them out a questionnaire or have them fill it out. It's basic. Who are you seeing? What are you taking? We're going to plug that in and see what the best plan is for you to couple with who you're taking and what you're taking and who you're seeing.
Sure.
We're going to get you into the best plan for that, or at least put eyes on all those plans and give you something to think about on your way home. And that's an appointment we'd set up with Frank either that day or maybe a week later.
Yeah, I think what's interesting here is, and again, I just went through this process, obviously, as many of our clients do, because I know I'm Social Security or Medicare eligible. We have two, I like to call it old world, new world. What's really great is that we take the time with you so that you understand that Medicare truly covers about 80% of your covered expenses. What we're trying to do is fill in that gap, that 20% plus obviously prescription costs. Having a plan that you can match using your current physicians and prescriptions at the best cost base is really where you want to go. And I think what's kind of cool is that, again, we do this on our whiteboard, showing you what the costs are, have a discussion about what the differences are in the plans in terms of how do you access care? Do you have copays? Are you paying premiums, et cetera? And put you in a situation where you can make the best choice that you want. For us, we happen to, our firm is one of the larger Medicare producers or Medicare supplement producers in the state of Missouri. And so the truth is, I like to think of it as Baskin and Robbins. You decide what ice cream you want, we're going to scoop it for you.
Well, the most important thing is that you are feeling comfortable with the coverage that you've elected, and you feel as though you'll be able to support whatever expense that is in your financial game plan, which is another benefit of having those two components in-house. We're able to work with Frank to reincorporate those numbers, if necessary, into your game plan. Do you have a prescription that is on more of the expensive side? Because even though Medicare is going to cap your prescription drug expenses at $2,000 next year, that's an additional $2,000 a year if you're someone that is taking a brand name or a specialty medication that we're going to want to work back into the game plan for you, so we know that you'll be able to, just as you always have, walk into the pharmacy, pick up your medication, and not have to worry about the expense of it. The other important thing is with Medicare, we essentially say the same timeline is a good jumping off point. You want to start the process about 90 days before you are electing Medicare. So if you're already retired before 65, you're turning 65, you want to start about 90 days before the month that you turn 65. If, like Joe and Sally, you're planning on continuing to work past 65, you have coverage through your employer, you'll want to start the process about 90 days before you retire. So that way your coverage will line up. Your last day of coverage through work will end, and your first day of coverage through Medicare will begin the very next day.
It's interesting because we do see people that have different ages. We also see folks that are retiring at different times.
Certainly.
And in this particular case with Joe and Sally, they wanted to retire basically at the same time. But for folks that are retiring at different times, we're also helping them go through the decision process about, hey, do I go on to Medicare? My spouse stays on their coverage, or or is it better for me to be added to my spouse's coverage and then thereby take advantage of a special election at the time that they retire? So lots of different questions here, and what's neat is that we're able to do this all inside of and having your financial plan right in front of you. So what happens is the financial decisions part of this can be very clear for you, but more important is a lot of these things are going to be a feel-good decision. Does it make sense for me to jump off? Does it make sense for me to just continue with my current employer's health plan or go to my spouse's employer's health plan without pre-existing conditions? And then for us to both go out together. Another final thing I know, honey, you were getting to about this is that with paying for your Medicare Part B premiums, they will be withheld from your Social Security payments if you have elected Social Security. If you haven't, then you're basically paying in advance at a quarter in advance. And what happens is once you do elect your Social Security, that's when they begin to deduct it. So, again, there's subtle nuances that are going on here. And it's good to have the information about these, don't you?
Certainly. We used a more straightforward example where Joe and Sally are very close in age and they're planning to retire close together. I would say that's less likely to happen. Most spouses aren't the exact same age generally not planning to retire at the exact same time. However, we do see that every once in a while, so it's nice to give the general overview of what it looks like as you're transitioning into retirement. But obviously, for those of you that are retiring on different tracks, one of you gets to watch the other go through all the hoops first. So you get to see what the process looks like, see how the transition goes, and then that way we just essentially replicate that for the second spouse as they retire. And there are many other components during retirement, and I think what we like to do is kind of go through a little bit of a checklist in terms of what your benefits are as you're leaving work. So there are many people that have access to employer-based life insurance that is portable, which means we can take it with you if that's something that's important to you, or we determine that's a part of the game plan that we would like to implement. We can compare what does that conversion look like versus what we could get you privately, so we can do that comparison for you before we leave work. The other things to look at are some employers have been offering long-term care insurance to their employees, other ancillary benefits. We'll want to look at what can be taken with you versus what you might want replicated again for you if you can't. And then, like you mentioned, Dad, Joe and Sally don't have pensions, but that's another set of paperwork to take care of if we're making a pension election, helping you not only direct those funds to your bank account, but do the tax withholdings. We're happy to assist with that paperwork. And then the final piece is, we really want to answer Joe and Sally's last question, which is how do I get, you told me I need about $20,000 a year. How do I actually get access to that $20,000 a year from my retirement accounts?
Right. Mechanically, how does that work? And, once we work out the mechanics, how would you like it? Would you like us to recreate your paycheck? Do you want this on the first of the month, last of the month? Do you want it around a specific day? Very important.
That's a great point. So the first thing that we would do is we'd say, okay, when Joe and Sally pick their official retirement dates, everything lines up against that. So about 30 days from each of their retirement dates, we'll set up a call so we can assist with that rollover, to roll over their 401k assets into self-directed IRAs.
A tax-free direct transfer.
Exactly. And we have a client service manager that assists all of our clients in doing this to make sure that the money's being directed into the correct account. So it is, in fact, a tax-free transfer of your assets. Usually those rollovers take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And then we can begin making those monthly distributions out of your account when you'd like them. Just like Rob said, we can either match it up to how you're used to receiving your paycheck, or if you find you're receiving your Social Security benefit on a certain week, you'd like your distribution to come on another week, we can set that up to match what your bill-paying systems have been in the past. We can also withhold taxes for you. In fact, we recommend that from each stream of income that you receive, if it is taxable, that you are withholding taxes, so that way you don't have to worry about quarterly withholdings, and you can maintain consistency across all of your income streams. With Social Security, most people assume that they'll be able to withhold taxes as they are going through the application process. But unfortunately, Social Security doesn't give you that option on the online application at the moment. So we provide a second form for you that we will be happy to send in once you've signed to Social Security that requests tax withholdings. The great thing is in Missouri and Illinois, there are no state taxes on your Social Security benefits any longer, I would say, since Missouri just implemented that this year, which is fantastic. But so we can help you do those withholdings, roll those assets over into your retirement account into an IRA from your 401k, and then withhold taxes from those distributions.
It's all good, and that's what we do at a coaching session in our offices in all of that. It's fun. It's free. Usually runs about an hour if Aaron's doing it. A little longer if it's with me. I tell too many Aaron stories.
A lot longer.
They're having fun in there.
Yeah.
Loud.
Having fun.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
have snacks that you want to enjoy. Nothing healthy, we promise.
And free coffee and free parking and free soda and all that kind of good stuff.
That's right.
Easy to do, 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008, or go to our website, hit the Contact Us section. Tell us a little about yourself, and our staff will be very happy to arrange a coaching session for you, as we do every week with you folks, our listeners.
That's right. So if you've tuned in because you missed the webinar that didn't happen on Thursday morning, that's essentially what our plan was to discuss. So if you have questions.
And we kept it to 30 minutes.
And we did. That was our original goal. And we were going to open it up to questions. But as you know, you're always welcome to give us a call.
314-931-5877 or 84-1226 from the KTRS text line.
That's right. Send us a text if you have a few questions about mastering your transition from work to retirement.
We'd love to hear from you today.
But at the moment, I think we're probably about time for our first break of the hour.
I think so. So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
Drag racers, modern-day gladiators, pitting themselves against 300 pounds of grinding steel, battling each other in the power of 11,000 horses that run hot, risking it all for the thrill of the championship. Join us September 27th through 29th for the NHRA Midwest Nationals at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Join us for a weekend of action. Kids 12 and under get in free and general admission. Brought to you in part by the Illinois Office of Tourism and Discover Downstate Illinois.
School is back, which can only mean Dogtown Pizza is back. Hey, Josh here, and with those long days of pickups, practices, and plays, you're going to want some pizza. With so much running around during the week, you need something quick, easy, and that everyone will enjoy, and that's Dinner with Dogtown. Bacon, hot wing, or just plain cheese, there's something for all the kids. And a tomato basil garlic for mom and dad, too. Now with 11 varieties, back to school means back to Dogtown. DogtownPizza.com.
I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I want your fixer-upper home or condo. It's crazy to spend a ton of money fixing it up when I will pay you top dollar right now. I don't even care what condition it's in. Your trash is my treasure. No inspections, no contingencies, just cold, hard cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867. That's Mike Robinson, 314-283-0867, or at ROBANGproperties.com.
Look, I get it. Going back to school might seem unrealistic for your hectic life, but it's achievable when it's with WGU. WGU is an online accredited university that makes higher education accessible for real people with real lives. With tuition starting at around $8,000 per year and courses you can take 24/7, WGU provides the flexibility and personalized support that can help you go back to school successfully. So, what are you waiting for? Apply today at WGU.edu.
Hey, it's Heidi, and I feel very lucky to love where I live, and I know Lauren Risley feels the same. And her team at Lauren Risley Realty wants you to experience that same great feeling. One of their mottos at Lauren Risley Realty is love where you live or move. Dream homes are their specialty. Actually, they do a lot of things right, because when you buy or sell a home, it's not just a transaction. What the Lauren Risley team does is build relationships, and I've seen that firsthand. So if you have plans to buy, sell, invest, or just have a question about any of it, call Lauren Risley Realty, 314-775-0684. That's 314-775-0684. You can also email Lauren at hello@laurenrisleyrealty.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back. It's 9:41 Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions this morning. 315-877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. And so while we're waiting for your text today, I did receive an email last week. Managed to get through the server past Aaron. One new easy.
And you saw it even.
Exactly. I always look at my email. Since you taught me.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome. That's a little family joke there. So I received this one from Joe. Joe says, my wife and I are both 64 years old. We're currently both actively at work, and we're enjoying it. We want to stay on for about approximately 1 year until September of 2025, in which case we'll be 65 years old. So they'll be Medicare eligible, but not normal retirement Social Security eligible.
Right. Just an important note, this is a great question that many people ask. Can you elect Social Security without Medicare, and can you elect Medicare without Social Security? The answer to both of those questions is yes. The systems are tied together. However, the benefits are not contingent upon one another. So you can elect your Social Security benefit early, but maybe not have a need for your not have access to Medicare until 65. So 62-year-olds are taking Social Security but not taking Medicare in many instances. You can elect Medicare but say, I'm going to put off my Social Security benefit until normal retirement age. So there are many people that are 65 taking Medicare but not Social Security yet. So you do have access to either of those benefits independent from one another. But just like you pointed out earlier, Dad, if you are taking Social Security, Medicare is going to automatically be deducted from your Social Security check. If you're not, you'll just be billed on a quarterly basis until you're enrolled.
I think that's what adds to the confusion, is that they marry the Part B premiums coming out of Social Security, so naturally people believe like one is tied to the other.
That's a great point. There is one piece that does make a difference, which is that Social Security and Medicare have what's called a hold harmless agreement, which means that if Social Security does not issue a cost of living adjustment, Medicare cannot issue a premium increase. And if Social Security issues a cost of living adjustment, Medicare's increase cannot be more than the cost of living adjustment. You only have access to that particular benefit if you are enrolled in both. So you could see your Medicare premium increase more than what someone who is taking Social Security and Medicare at the same time. That's happened a couple of times over the last few years just because we've had such large cost of living adjustments on your Social Security benefits.
And at the end of the day, this decision is not a right or wrong. And frankly, there are a lot of factors that really need to be considered before making a decision. And so we've kind of broken these down to four. First one is, how close am I to my normal retirement age? This is a big one because obviously the longer you wait, the more money that you are bypassing when it comes to not taking Social Security benefits. We're going to go through an example in a moment. The second one is your health, and if you're married, your spouse's.
Very important.
Because obviously longevity is something that you're counting on in regards to Social Security benefits. If it isn't, somebody's ill, then that makes the election maybe for one person, maybe a little bit more clear.
The next one is my personal favorite. Will you continue to earn wages after you make your election? Very, very important, because if you're under retirement age, there's going to be a take back.
If you exceed those income limits.
Correct.
And what we're looking at, if I'm correct, is that the income limit before the year that you turn normal retirement age, I think, is $22,000 and some dollars.
$22,320.
So that's from the day you turn 62 and you're eligible for Medicare till the last day of the year before you turn your normal retirement age. So in this particular example, it would be from 65 till basically for this year and for next year and the year preceding that. You would have that $22,000 on your income. Now, it's not a family income, which is nice. This is because Social Security is tied to your Social Security number. Your wages will also be tied there. So if, for example, our second round of Joe and Sally's. If Joe is going to get a little part-time job, but he's not going to earn all that much, that has no impact on Sally's ability to also earn $22,000 throughout the course of the year, but you each respectively have to stay under those limits.
And sometimes we even delay electing Social Security because a lot of times someone's retiring from a company or a state program where they're starved for workers. So within a month or two of them retiring, they'll be called back with an offer they can't refuse. And so we usually like to wait a little bit if there's a chance that they may go back to work, so we don't have to stop and suspend and all that.
Absolutely. That's a question that we ask, and the answers vary. Last weekend, we were having a visit with our clients that are planning to retire this year, and we happen to know that the company that one of our clients works for has had those requests to retired employees to come back to work. But he said, no, absolutely not. Send me that step by step. I'm electing my Social Security benefit. Other times people, they just want to take a couple months, relax, and see if they decide that they want to go back with maybe similar pay, better options, working from home, but with less stress because they've left their career.
It's like your dad says. I mean, some people think the tread on the tire is gone, but after 6 weeks of sitting home, they decide, you know what, I do have some tread left, and I kind of miss it. So
right.
There's a foot for every shoe. Everyone's different.
There's a foot for every shoe.
There is. And like you said, sometimes they make you an offer where it's like, hey, they're going to pay me 40% more than what I was making before, and I get to work from home. I literally can't not do this. So,
an offer you won't refuse.
Right. And we love to hear that because, it seems like everyone gets what they want. And, that's always nice.
Yes. And then finally, this is a big consideration, especially if folks have not only Social Security but also pensions, which is what is the effect of the loss of income on that surviving spouse when the other spouse passes away. We know that only the greater Social Security benefit of the two is retained, and in some cases, we also have to take a look at what if there is a potential loss under the survivor election for somebody's pension. If they didn't elect 100% benefit to the spouse, if it's
we
less.
could see loss of income in more than one way.
So, as a part of our planning, we're not only on the front end, we're talking about not only are you happily retiring, we hope, together, but also what happens when it's gone. Survivor planning, very important to do. So let's go into, if we can, a little bit of the hard crunching numbers here, and it's not too difficult. But again, we're doing this so that you folks have a little bit of perspective if you decide to go through this exercise on your own, or if you come in for a coaching session with us, or frankly, go in and visit with your own advisor on this matter. So again, Joe and Sally are 64. They both want to actively work until the end of next year.
Making them 65 at the election point.
Right. If they defer their Social Security benefits to their normal retirement age 67, which is 2 years, they'll be electing that benefit at 65, which together is about $5,600 a month, times 12 months, times 2 years, for a total of $134,000, which is money that they're going to be foregoing because they didn't elect their Social Security benefit.
So this is an important, I think, got a little confused. This is an important thing to consider when you are making the decision to defer your benefit. Not just what are you getting later, but what are you giving up in that time frame that you are deferring your benefit. If Joe and Sally retire at 65, but they're going to defer for 2 years, they're giving up $134,000 of Social Security benefit.
So, Rob, what happens on the way back? They do gain an increase in benefits, right?
They do. They get about $400 a month. We scale that up for 12 months and then for 2 years. So that's $9,600 in benefits between waiting at 65 and then 67. So we know we have to take that $9,600 and divide it by the $134,000, and that gives us a break-even point of 14 years.
So the government's more than happy to give you more money every month. However, they're just going to give it to you over a shorter period.
Right.
You're right. You gave up $134,000 over 2 years to get it back at a $400 a month rate for the next 14 years. If you exceed the 14th year, you come out ahead because Social Security is going to end up paying you more than they would have if you took it at 65. But if you don't make it,
it's like Jeff says, it's a math problem. And once you know it's a math problem, we can, we much prefer the stories that numbers tell. And so we let them tell them. And
Absolutely.
We see who comes out ahead. And then it becomes, well, what do you feel more comfortable with? Would you rather have your cake now or get it back in $400 increments, and try and outlast the 14 years? But at least you know before you make the election.
Yep.
And, frankly, it's very difficult to measure financial security. For some folks, not foregoing that money also in many cases can, if you say, limit some of your other choices, like because they're under the age of normal retirement age, well, they can't really earn more than $22.8 or they're going to $22.3, or they're going to give back $1 benefit for every $2 in excess. So there are some limitations there. But some other things to consider, I think some good things are that only 85% of your Social Security benefits are subject to federal income tax. 15% of that is tax-free. If we compare that also to, what would be the other source of income, at least in Joe and Sally's case, it would be from retirement plan assets, which we know those distributions, if they're from a traditional IRA, are 100% taxable.
Right.
So Social Security can also be very tax efficient. The other side is that it's possible that you could increase your Part B premiums if your adjusted gross income is greater than $175,000. And we do have folks that have that type of earned income level, which is kind of cool for them. And it's certainly a consideration to occur.
Well, with all of that, I think we are running up our last break of the hour.
Well, then don't touch that dial. We'll be right back for more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Okay, last 4 minutes of hour number one. We've been talking a little bit about Social Security planning.
That's right, but we've got a great text question on deck that goes back to Joe and Sally from our cash flow game planning from our first segment of the hour. Sally and Joe would like to know from your analysis with respect to how inflation is incorporated into your example. I understand you have a prudent rate of withdrawal of 4%, but how does the variable inflation rates factor into the math? Lastly, what rate of overall asset growth is to be expected, needed, desired on the retirement portfolio, understanding you're not going to have any work-related income? So I wanted to do the math for everyone really quickly to just give you a quick example of how we incorporate inflation into our data, which is we like to build in a few buffers into our income planning. And the way that we do that is through overestimating taxes. So when we go back to Joe and Sally's example, Rob let us know that their Social Security benefits are going to run about $3,750 a month. That's $45,000 a year. But only 85% of that benefit is taxable. So that's really only $38,250 that's going to be taxable to them of that income. When we add on top the $19,800 that they'll need from their retirement accounts in order to make their income work, we get to a total of about $58,000 of income.
12% tax bracket?
Exactly. And we
scaled it up for 20.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
So we built in that buffer there. We also haven't even factored in the standard deduction, which we essentially assume for most people is what you're taking with it's actually risen to $14,600 this year. So it's a pretty sizable deduction. Most people aren't able to itemize unless you still have that primary mortgage interest available to you. And the great thing is, we're always looking for the silver lining in terms of things that go on in the economy, with healthcare, and there are very few silver linings to inflation, except for that we were really able to test our model over the last few years, and we can say that no one has come back to us for a raise on their monthly income due to the variations in inflation.
Nor did we have to send anyone back to work.
That's a great point. No one is out on their second, third, or maybe fourth career in retirement because of what's the impact of inflation.
You never had to have the conversation, Joe, Sally, You didn't throw away those work boots, did you? Because guess what? You got to put them back on.
Well, also, we've never had discussions during recessionary times about, or when the markets are declining, about changing their monthly income, reducing it to match.
That's a great point. So when we talk about what our assumed rate of return is, our goal on an annual basis is 8%.
Which, by the way, matches the average long-term return on a moderately balanced portfolio.
Which gives us the opportunity to incorporate taxes, fees, and your rate of withdrawal and still maintain your portfolio. And that 8% is over an extended period of time because you have an extended period of time with your assets, which is why that 4% is so important in our game plan, because if we can control everything that can be controlled, which is how much we're pulling from the account, that gives us the best opportunity to maintain your assets over a long period of time.
So let's maintain your attention into hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. We'll be right back right after these messages for another fun hour.
Forgot about the fitness allowance. She could have just submitted the one bill. So, and we both heard Frank talking about this with someone, which is if you have multiple bills that reflect, like, for example, quarterly payments, just submit them all individually as opposed to all on one claim with the total annualized amount, because we've seen a few rejections that way. Unfortunately, it's human beings that are doing the processing here, so let's make it as easy for them as possible so you get your money back as quickly as possible and just, do one claim per bill that you have.
And another great part on the claims form that me and Frank were fooling around with is a little comments box. So when you submit something, like say you had a consolidated bill that for 3 different services, but you can give them an explanation for what they're looking at. Like, hey, this is a $900 bill, but it's broken up into $300 segments for each one of these services, so that if there's any gray areas that you want to illuminate for them, you certainly have the space to do it. It's not like you're just submitting paperwork and leaving it to them to guesstimate as to what you're trying to get through. They have a great comment section there if there's any other color you want to add to anything you're submitting, which I think is great, because sometimes these billings and the codes and it can be a little bit confusing for us, and we eat, sleep, and breathe this, and I'm sure it's got to be a little bit confusing sometimes for the adjusters as well over at Aetna, United, whomever. So that comment box is really great.
And like we said, human beings are reading them, so
right.
It's not just going into a mechanized system. So leaving that comment could be helpful. But what else is helpful? If you've received a rejection from any of the companies on any of the benefits that we're talking about, you can always give Frank a call, 314-863-0008, or best send him an email.
And oddly enough, that's exactly what we were doing. Someone consolidated this and sent it in, and it was rejected. We broke it down with an itemization with a comment on each one, and it was approved.
That's fabulous. So if you're in that situation, I say email is best, franklin@jblfinancial.com, because then you can email him the rejection and what you submitted and all of your bills, and then Frank and Rob can get to work resubmitting them for you. You don't have to do it again, and they have everything on the front end, so just send them a little synopsis. This is what happened, here's what I got, and they'll give you a call if they need anything, or they'll just get to work resubmitting it for you.
And a lot of times it's as simple as a resubmission with an explanation.
Excellent. Now, I wanted to do the math for Linda, which is, we know she had an $800 dental bills, $300 in eye care bills, and $300 in that fitness allowance.
My math says that's $1,400.
That's right. So she's going to get multiple checks from Aetna, but they're going to total about $1,400. But here's what's even better. Linda still has all of this month, October, November, and December, because she did not spend all of her money. On the dental allowance with Aetna, she has $3,250 this year. She only spent $800. That means
$2,400.
$2,450 left. Now, nobody wants to go to the dentist when they don't have to. So maybe that one has to just be let go for the year. But if she has a cleaning or wants an extra cleaning and exam, Aetna's going to cover those things if you haven't hit your max, if you haven't maxed out your benefit yet. Since she's got $2,400 left, maybe that's something she's considering before the end of the year. You know, pearly white chompers for the Christmas cards and pictures. It would be nice.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at her fitness allowance is $1,200.
She's got $900 left
but she
there.
only used $300, so we got almost $1,000 in fitness allowance to use.
$900 left in fitness allowance.
And I hear that Apple Pro Watch is like
just about $900.
$950, so for $50.
And if you need clarity before you spend anything on that fitness allowance because there's been some confusion there, again, just give us a call. We'll make sure that you're staying within the bounds so you get your reimbursement too. And then the last one is she still has about $105 left on the vision benefit that she only spent $300 against, which means that if Linda were to maximize all of the benefits through the end of the year, she's got another $3,455 left to spend of Aetna's money if she wants to.
You know, Linda's got like a full-time job there at the house just figuring out how to save all this money, how to get reimbursed on all this money.
And just so everyone knows, you can submit reimbursements against this year's policy next year as long as the bills came from 2024. So you actually have to use the benefits in 2024, but you still have time after the first of the year to make those submissions in case you run out of time or you run into a denial and you're still working through the process with Frank and Rob to get that corrected.
Those Advantage plans are good till the 31st of December. So, you know, the last month of the year, if you've ran into some bills, hold on to those receipts, submit them in the new year if you forgot or you got caught up in the holidays, what have you. You won't be left without a chair when the music stops.
Or if you haven't used your over-the-counter benefit, what a great opportunity for stocking stuffers.
Especially
toothpaste, toothbrushes.
Absolutely. With, you know, I mean, we're coming into the fall.
Advil liquid gels.
Right.
There you go.
Claritin D. Everybody in St. Louis needs a little allergy meds.
Tylenol PM, Zicam.
Knock them out for Santa.
Honey, if I could add an anecdotal thing that happened with me. As you remember, I've been
testing
as
the
hard
walkers.
as I can the fitness benefit. And I did, unfortunately, submit not only a request for reimbursement for golf club, but also for greens fees on the same form.
I remember that.
And, you know, they rejected the greens fees. So I'm like, this isn't right. I gave them to Frank and et cetera. And so what's interesting is I got a call.
A telephone call?
From Aetna directly.
What, an unsolicited call?
Yes, it blew me away. And the lady's like, you know, I'm looking at this claim and we saw you had a rejection. And I said, yeah. And she says, I'm looking at it right now and you should resubmit this.
So she didn't just reverse the rejection?
So
she didn't have the power to reverse the check?
No, she didn't, but she was a customer service. She said, you know what, I can see that they just didn't process this right, and so resubmit the claim. I've never had that happen in 40 years.
Aetna's literally
asking
you to, right, an insurance company's literally asking you to resubmit something so you can take money from them. What a world. What a time to be alive.
No, that was something that Frank said to me while we were working through it, because, you know, a lot of times I've seen it where we just have to resubmit it, you know, a slightly different way where it doesn't change the overall je ne sais quoi of what we're trying to get to. But, yeah.
It's just all a matter of language and sometimes nuance. And the nice thing is, since Frank, myself, and Rob have been doing this for quite a while now, kind of have the gist of what the insurance companies want to see. So if you need a little bit of help, that's what we're here to do, to make sure that you are able to maximize all of these benefits, because I used to be able to say the insurance company isn't going to help you do that, but it sounds like Aetna is actually on the path to helping you do that. But let's see if we can get it right for you the first time around so you don't have to go through the resubmission process.
And it seems to be a cadence and a flow. Like they don't seem to the claims that are individualized seem to go off without a hitch. The ones that are consolidated sometimes get rejected. So it's just something we've noticed as we've gone through the year.
314-863-0008. That's our office number. Again, 314-863-0008. Fun time of the year is about to begin.
We are just weeks, days. Soon we'll be counting hours before open enrollment begins.
And we'll be talking about the new benefits and what's available to you. And comparing old plans and new plans, and that's what we do. And isn't it cool
It's great.
that a financial advisor can help you do that?
So you know what? We are starting to pile up some text questions. Unfortunately, they are not related to Medicare. So if you happen to have any Medicare questions, you can always send those in, even though I think that wraps up our Medicare portion of the show this morning. I think why don't we take our first break of the hour, and when we come back, we will get to your text questions.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
1026 here on Big 550 KTRS. Talk Radio St. Louis. We're halfway through hour number 2. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Heating Up and Quickly Filling Up KTRS text line.
First question. Can I get reimbursed for my monthly Weight Watchers costs?
Maybe.
See, at first glance, I say let's submit it, especially if you are already paying the monthly. Let's just find out. Let's submit one.
Let's have them tell us no.
Right.
The claim, not the food.
Right. I'm leaning towards maybe not, only because it's
you
not.
You don't like the taste?
It's not fitness. It is related to your health, though.
Not fatness.
Look, I'm trying to be serious, help some people get some money back from the insurance companies.
I was trying to think if maybe the over-the-counter could be, but no.
No, over-the-counter, unfortunately, See, we're always thinking here to try to get you to maximize the benefits. Let's submit it. Let's see what happens.
Aetna is listening.
Aetna is always listening, like the others. But, and if it gets through, then we're going to make an announcement to everyone, because I'm sure there are other people that are utilizing Weight Watchers. And if that's something that can get under the gun on that fitness allowance, then let's make it happen.
You never know. Enough people, they may actually go and buy them.
That's a great point.
There you go.
That would be a nice, now that I think of it, a nice peripheral benefit on one of those Advantage plans. But
oh, wait, this is the most important text we've ever received. I don't know if you've raised this argument in the past to have your dad give you a raise. None of this has any artistic license. I am reading directly from the text. But technically, the more he pays you, the more you pay in FICA, which benefits him.
It's nice.
You stumped him. That means a raise for Aaron. Still speechless. This has never happened before.
Yeah, you're right, honey. You're right, because you're actually over the FICA limit right now. So I guess you could have a little more dough. And I will say one thing: there are other reasons why getting a raise would be good. The primary one is you really do spend a lot of money on birthday gifts for me, and I'm very appreciative of that. So let's keep it going.
Well, let's consider that during raise time. The people have spoken.
Aren't you the president of the company? I was informed reliably.
But philosophically, Dad is the president of us all.
Okay. just checking.
Spiritually, he sits above us all.
Uh-huh. Chairman emeritus. That's it.
Right, exactly. All right, so I'm sorry that last text was so good. Let's go back to the others. I think we have exhausted. I have Medicare and TRICARE for life. Do I really need anything else? No, you don't really need anything else. Medicare and TRICARE for life are considered comprehensive coverage when they're coupled together. However, if this year during open enrollment, starting October 15th, you want to take a look about all these extra benefits you keep hearing about, you can add a Medicare Advantage plan that has no premium associated with it, that include extra benefits like dental, vision, hearing, silver sneakers, over the
counter.
Thank you.
Fitness
allowances that will not impact your TRICARE, that won't impact your Medicare, that you can utilize just for those extra benefits if you'd like.
Good
Hearing
question.
aids, too.
Hearing aids, thank you.
About that one.
That's a great point. So, lots of options available to you. under those Medicare Advantage plans that won't impact your current benefits. You may just see some benefit from it. Oh, and now we've got a couple of financial questions now on deck here.
Terrific.
Let's go back to the one that came in at the very end of last hour because they have been patiently waiting. We have all of our assets, including several bank accounts, in a trust with our children as the beneficiaries after my wife and I pass. Recently, a friend told me that we should also have our children on our bank accounts. Is that wise or helpful? Please do not add your children as owners, co-owners of your bank accounts. You should retitle your bank accounts in the name of the trust, or you should make the trust the TOD of your bank accounts. Renaming the accounts in the name of the trust is probably going to be the most efficient way to do that, but you do not want to add the children as owners of the accounts because that's going to tie you financially together. If you have any, let's say that you had someone fall on your property and it goes above your umbrella liability coverage, they could come after you for those funds, but then they can also come after your children for funds because you've tied them to your bank account, or vice versa. Could happen something with your children that ties you in financially. You don't want to do that. But adding them as a TOD or renaming the trust as or renaming the bank accounts in the name of the trust will effectively move those assets into the trust, so then your children will become the owners of them at the second individual's passing.
Yeah, the only thing, it seems like it would make it easy for the kids to have access to the funds in your accounts if they're named co-owners at your death. However, it's a very simple process for them to take in a death certificate with a trust document, and that'll end up doing the same thing. So don't increase your liabilities or the potential for liability on your accounts with your children, especially if your daughter is led foot loosey as a driver. So.
Also, and the other nice thing is you can also create documents that will give your children access to your bank accounts in the event that you need them to, you haven't passed, but maybe you're incapacitated, or maybe you just like them to begin helping you out.
Power of attorney. Right.
Exactly, as you get older. So there are other ways to achieve probably what you're looking for, which is giving yourselves a little extra security and support and knowing that the kids are there to back you up if you need anything without increasing your liability.
And even if they didn't have a trust, you could simply name the children as beneficiaries on the account, and it would function much the same way at your passing. They would go in there with a death certificate. They're the named beneficiaries. It would be a pretty seamless process.
That's exactly right. So you don't necessarily need a trust, but since you have one, let's utilize that. And we have Bert on line 1 with a retirement question.
And my timing is not so good because I hopped in the car right at the end of when you were talking about using your benefits and so on and so forth. So maybe this has been asked, but I have Aetna Medicare Advantage. I have not used any of that. Is it a fitness benefit?
Yes.
Is that what it's called? And the new Apple Watch has come out. Can I go for the top version as long as I stay under that full benefit? And will they reimburse?
They will. So if you've got the Aetna Gold, that's a $1,200 allowance for the year. Even if you go over the so let's say the new fitness watch is $1,500. I don't know what Apple's charging, but
too much.
That's couldn't have said it better, Bert. Even if you go over the dollar amount, they'll still reimburse you up to $1,200. So there are some benefits where if you go over the benefit amount, they won't reimburse you at all. This is not one of them. So you can utilize the full $1,200 on the one item if you'd like.
Okay, now just quickly, how about the dental? Because I heard you touching on that. I have not used any of that. Is that a blanket reimbursement?
Yes.
Because, I'm thinking, well, when I see my EOBs when I was still employed and I see the dentist charged this much, this was agreed to, this, and then over in the right it says you may owe nothing. I don't want Aetna to go, well, so it's flat dollar for dollar.
Yes, it is, as long as it's covered, which even implants are covered under the Aetna dental benefit, which, again, the Gold has the $3,250. So you need a cleaning, an x-ray, exam. You need extractions, major, minor dental, all of those things are going to be covered. So you go to the dentist, you get the bill, or you have them email it to you, and you can request the reimbursement online up to $3,250 for the year.
Yes, Bert, I was going to say, actually, it's really the opposite of what you're thinking. With your current dental plan, what happens
old
is
dental
the
plan.
old dental plan, you had the insurance company negotiate the fees with the dentist for what was called reasonable and customary.
Sure.
So he was only paid a certain amount, and then, which was considered reasonable and customary, the difference of that was written off. So in this case, since you aren't using at this moment a specific dental network, you don't have those discounted fees. So the reasonable yet or unreasonable yet common fees that he may be charging are actually going to be used on the dental benefit.
Right, so you're going to get what you would call a clean bill. There's no deductions for insurance, which means when you submit to the insurance company, it's just a straight reimbursement for what you've spent on the dental.
Well, then I got to get busy and spend some of their money.
We agree.
Don't be down in the mouth. Go see your dentist.
No, I'll just close with, now I was a little confused because I have a special needs son, and he has the dual needs, he's on Medicaid and a Medicare Advantage plan. And when I took him to the dentist, I found out, because of course I had to call Aetna, that his plan is not that way. You go to the network, you still go to the network providers. You don't pay up front. So that's something that, I learned. I'm like, what? Wait, what? I got to pay up front, but he doesn't have to. However, I think he has a much higher, I think he has a $5,000 yearly dental benefit.
So, yes, there are nuances amongst even the plans within one company like Aetna. So it is good to be clear on what you have. Thanks for calling us this morning, Bert.
Thank you for answering all my questions. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. And it looks like we've got Scott on line 2 with another retirement question. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, boys and girls. All right, just what you were talking about on the banking. I was about to put my daughter and son on, so whenever, because like the house, all my investments, all that, it's possession upon death. The only thing I don't have was the bank. Now, is it still okay to do that, put it on there, but yet I'm not going to tell them about it until after we're gone? They'll find out on their own.
Yes.
Then is that okay?
Yes. Yeah, you can do what's called a POD through the bank, or TOD. And again, this is naming them as beneficiaries. So they don't have any control over your bank account during your life. It's just at a death, it'll be passing as a beneficiary designation, just like you've done with your home and your retirement accounts and other investments.
Right, and they don't get, and just like with your home and your retirement accounts, they're not getting the mortgage statement sent to them. That just goes right to you. They're not going to get any statements from the bank or anything like that about your bank accounts. Right. But what it does do is many people, usually you're not keeping a lot in your checking account, but sometimes it does pile up, and anything over $20,000, I believe, right in Missouri, does go through probate. So this will help you. This will help avoid probate when you have the kids added to the account as TOD.
Yeah, one other thing I might add here is that when it comes time to have your checks reprinted, and it may be forever because most folks aren't using a lot of checks these days, you can have it retitled as your name and your wife's, if you're married, TOD. You don't have to have the kids' names on it. So at least that'll give them a clue that they'll have a clue at least that there is a transfer on death on that, and then they'll be happily surprised that it's them. And and again, that will make it easy for you. But you don't. But again, you can change the titling, as you know, today with the bank, and just reorder new checks when it comes time.
Yeah, that might be another 6-8 months before I need any more checks.
Exactly.
But you were saying I can't have over 20,000 in there?
No, you can have over 20, but what happens is...
Actually, I think it's 40.
I'm sorry, 40,000 in the checking account. It's just that if you didn't name your children as the beneficiaries, that would go through probate. So a lot of people don't think about their bank accounts. You have, which is smart.
What about savings?
Savings is the same, so you'll want to add the kids as, again, the TODs on your savings accounts too.
Yeah, because I got about 90 in the savings.
So you definitely, on everything that holds assets or that is an asset, you should have a TOD or a POD or a beneficiary on, so that way everything goes directly to an individual, or if it's an institution like a charity,
Right.
it'll all be on there and all your assets will go the direction that you want them to.
Scott, quick
Okay,
question.
great.
Quick question.
Thank you very much.
Scott, quick question while I have you.
Yeah.
With your savings account, are you getting any interest on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get, well, most of my stuff's in all investments.
Gotcha.
I was just going to suggest if you weren't getting a decent interest rate on your savings account that you may want to consider a high-yielding money market account.
Which also could be offered to that institution as well. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for your call today.
Absolutely. Let's keep it going. The texts are piling up.
Bravo.
My parents have Medicare, and they also pay for a supplementary insurance, and they also pay for third insurance to cover their medication. Does this seem really necessary? Because I feel like they're paying entirely too much for insurance.
Perhaps.
Right. So they have all of the component parts that are necessary for comprehensive coverage using a supplement. So supplemental coverage only covers your medical. They've also added a prescription drug plan to cover the prescriptions for you. So unlike coverage when you were working where the medical and the prescription are tied together, Medicare does not do that on original Medicare, which your parents have. They do have the opportunity right now, so starting October 15th, to discuss Medicare Advantage plans. Those can often be lower cost because they carry low or no premiums associated with them, so they can eliminate premiums but still maintain benefits. So this would be the time for them to take a look at some alternatives, or for you to help them take a look at some alternatives. And we do that for not only our clients that are currently on Medicare, but for individuals just like your parents that are on Medicare but looking for some alternative options. So you can always call our office, 314-863-0008, and Kelly, our office manager, will get you an appointment for after the 1st of October. Or have your parents go back to the individual that sold them the supplemental coverage and see if they also offer Medicare Advantage as an alternative so they can hear about the options. There's never any cost or obligation to listen to what your choices are.
You know, and it isn't unusual for our clients as they're retiring, getting ready to enter Medicare, saying, hey, let's grab mom and dad and bring them in and see if their coverage is competitive. Because what we get to is it's all about usage. How many times you've seen the physician? Are you having therapies? Are you having surgeries, etc.? How you use the plan. Both plans will give you security. The question is, are we paying up front, or does it make more sense based on the claims that we have paying on the way? So, again, call us 314-863-0008. Easy to do.
Well, we still have a boatload of text questions to get through, but maybe we should take our second break of the hour, and then we'll just push right through to the end.
Exactly. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these quick messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here in the Big 550. It's time to answer your calls and texts, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line, and we'll answer as many as we can in the next 13 and a half minutes.
Good morning. My question has to do with Roth. I currently have a Roth that I want to know how much on a yearly basis I can add to that account.
Assuming that you're actively at work.
Well, or is it a Roth IRA?
Well, you have to be one way or the other. You have to be actively at work to add to a Roth
Right.
IRA, right?
Well, you have to have earned income.
Exactly. Actively at work, having earned income. I believe the limit is $8,000. Is that correct?
I thought it was
$7,000 if you're under $50,000 catch-up.
Catch-up provisions
for
if
the
you're
8.
If you're on the right side.
So you can do that as long as you have earned income, and you can also do one for your spouse if you have one, if you have earned income, or you can do one, or a child or grandchild could do it if they have earned income.
Put a broom in their hand.
So $7,000 if you're under 50, but if you happen to be over 50, you get an extra $1,000 of a catch-up, making the total $8,000.
Very good.
You can only put in as much as you have in earned income or the
contribution limit.
Exactly. All right. I'm sorry. We just got so many. Here we go. I'm living out of state. What states can you help with advice on Medicare plans? I think we can help with it. We can help currently with 19 states, but that does not mean that if you give us a call, again, we mentioned 314-863-0008, just let us know what state you are in, and we can assist if we need to get licensed in that state to assist. We're happy to follow you. We do that for many clients.
Absolutely. We follow the clients.
What is the most inclusive Medicare supplement? What is the cost and what is the deductible?
Cost on most supplement plans right now is between $175 and $225.
So that would be for a Plan G, correct?
Correct. If it's your first year coming on it, because once you're on a Medicare supplement, you're on the escalator. So your price that you see this year, next year is going up, year after going up, so on and so forth.
So the Plan G is going to be the most comprehensive coverage for a Medicare supplement. It covers everything but your Medicare Part B deductible,
which is $240.
Perfect. So that means that...
But all the other plans are the same.
Well, not all the other plans are the same.
All the other Medicare supplements are pretty much the same. I mean, all the G plans from all different companies are the same benefit.
All the supplements are identical. They're federally standardized across the board. So Plan G, if you purchased it from United, if you purchased it from Aetna, if you purchase it in Missouri, if you purchase it in Texas, it's all going to look the same for you. Some companies add some extra benefits like silver sneakers or a little dental. Others do not. So there may be some nuances between them, but the medical benefits are always going to be the same. The deductible will be the same because Medicare actually sets that deductible. What assets does the government go after for someone who is about to go into 24-hour care? If they have CDs, do they take them, and should we liquidate her bank account, her investment account?
Well, I think the answer to the question, it's really not. Let me try to answer the question the best way I can. Before you become you are eligible for Medicaid, which is the government-sponsored benefit, generally your assets have to be spent down to a certain level. The decision on what assets should be sold are certainly ones that you should be making with a financial professional and or an elder attorney.
Maybe in conjunction, both of them together.
Exactly. And you can retain certain assets. The government doesn't go after anything. What happens is they need you to get rid of things until you then get to a level where, from an income point of view, from an asset point of view, that you fall below their limits so that you become eligible for care, payment of care.
Right. So essentially what is happening is it sounds like Mom may have begun the Medicaid spend down process, which is you spending her money in order to gain access to Medicaid. We definitely recommend that you work with her financial professional. I didn't read the name of the broker-dealer that you are already affiliated with, so you want to give them a call so her advisor can give you some guidance on what the best course of action is. And if Mom didn't have an elder care attorney, maybe your advisor can recommend one that they've worked with in the past. We have elder care attorneys that we've worked with in the past that might be able to provide some additional direction in that process.
Also the Medicaid application. Typically the elder attorneys are preparing the Medicaid applications, and that's really where you want to be, because you don't just get the benefit. You actually have to apply for it, and that's a rather long and detailed process, and it's not inexpensive either.
No, I think it generally, the elder care charge about $9,000 to do all of. Is that the full spend down work? Mm-hmm. All right, then.
And we have gotten one more text question. Our texter writes, I haven't heard you talk about the interest rates cuts that happened last week, and the proposal for more through the end of this year into next. Is now the last opportunity to lock in decent interest rates before the cycle really begins in earnest?
In earnest?
Maybe.
Well put, Rob.
Maybe.
Well, they've only cut interest rates by 0.5%, which is not really that significant. The problem is that those rates are not going to show up, other than the bank paying you less, in credit card interest. It won't be showing up in automobile loans very quickly. I was just reading an article today about how they believe it'll probably take about 6 months for these things to actually filter down through the system.
Right. The most sensitive rates are mortgage rates and then interest on bank or, like Rob was mentioning earlier, high-yielding money market accounts.
Whether rates will continue to be cut in earnest will be based upon whether the economy continues going
to slow, as I guess
is slowing and unemployment is rising. That's really what we're talking about here, folks. I mean, it used to be an inflation discussion, but let's be honest. Core inflation went up by 9%. It hasn't come down. The rate of increase from that amount is still going up. It's going up at less than 2%, though, or around 2.5%.
Right. You aren't seeing a reduction in the cost. You're just seeing a slowing in the raising of the cost of bacon and such.
Yes. So, what the Fed basically does is they raise rates as a way to cool the economy, which means spending costs or borrowing costs are more expensive. Borrowing costs are more expensive, et cetera. When they cut rates, what they're trying to do is to stimulate the economy because they're afraid that we're going into a recession. So
So when we were hearing several years ago about demand destruction, that's what over the last couple of years it took for us the rising interest rates took to get us here, which is we're seeing, we saw a decent earnings season, but we did see some retailers say that they're seeing slowing and they anticipate slowing. I just saw, I think it was FedEx yesterday.
Yeah, they got crushed.
But they're just talking about a lack. People are using less expensive options, or they're opting for less expensive shipping options, which can be a bellwether for what it's going to look like in the Christmas season and so on.
Yeah, I mean, no one knows the rate of interest rate cuts or the depth of them at this particular point. So for savers, i.e. investors, still a pretty good time versus 24, 36 months ago where interest rates were at 1%. So you're still getting a decent rate of money in your on your savings. And as Rob was trying to point out to our previous caller about was, are you earning as much as you can on your savings right now?
Right.
On that money that's maybe your safe money, the money that you're holding back for whatever reason it would be, your vault. Maximize that interest because the bank isn't going to tell you. They're not going to help you in doing this. You may have to become a shopper or, frankly, also talk to your financial advisor about these things.
And even when we saw rates at their lowest about 36 months ago, there were still places that were paying better than what a traditional savings account at most nationally recognized banks were paying. So this just might be your opportunity to move a few things around and say, hey, I do want to earn a little bit extra for that safe money that's hanging out there. No reason to let it sit and earn 0.01%.
And if you can live with the liquidity restrictions that come with owning a CD or a fixed annuity, this could be an opportunity to lock in some decent rates for
an extended period of time.
Exactly. If you don't want to live with those liquidity restrictions, perfectly understandable. A high-yielding money market account is certainly a viable alternative in that regard. You may not get as much, but
it's not a guaranteed rate.
Right.
But
it's floating, so, as they cut rates, you'll probably see that come down, but you're not stuck with any of the liquidity restrictions that come with either a fixed annuity or a CD, so it's a decent alternative. And our next texter writes, my son started contributing to his 401k through his employer last month and asked me how much he should be putting away. I told him as much as possible. Is this correct? I don't think it's wrong.
All I can tell you is I remember 13 years ago.
It was way more than 13 years ago, but thank you. I appreciate that.
You know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Is that I got a call from my oldest prodigal daughter working for the American Red Cross.
As American Cancer Society.
American Cancer Society, so you can tell. I'm loving charities this morning.
Yes, you are.
Dad, how much should I put in my 401k? I'm like, honey, I have to call you back. So I cried.
Cried?
Because
you didn't have to pay for me anymore. Moment of joy.
You're an adult. I mean, you're thinking about the future. You're doing it in a mature way, and so the advice I gave you, as well as I would give to our texter, is 5% isn't a bad way to start. Most young people have a lot of demands on their money, whether it's for conspicuous consumption by them or spouses or maybe if they have children. When you get into that house, when you get into nicer car, nicer food, etc., overfilling your retirement account in many cases makes people in times of need have to
raid it.
Right.
And that's the last thing that we want people to do, especially if they don't have borrowing. I mean, first would be we don't want you to have to raid it at all. This is money that's supposed to be set aside, growing over time, so you could have an enjoyable retirement. And
you don't want to call the bank of mom. So
certainly,
what I would suggest maybe going back is saying, hey, this is great, and 5% is probably a good idea, but do you have your emergency fund set aside? Do you have 1 to 3 months worth of income there so that if you do have an emergency, you won't have to try to raid that retirement account where it has tax penalties? So it's a big moment.
And for most
enjoy it.
And for most people, there is a waiting period on when matching or vesting will begin with 401k plans as new employees. So maybe this is the opportunity for your son before that period begins to start taking that 5% of his paycheck, putting it into a savings account just to simulate that. If he's comfortable there, then when the contributions can begin or when the matching begins, he starts his 5%. He won't feel any difference. Or he may find that 6% is possible. So got
Make
lots
sure
of options.
That you have saved before you begin to invest.
You certainly want to take advantage of your employer match. So whatever that match is, I would think that would be the floor on what you put into your retirement account, and
of
the
course.
ceiling, however much you can afford.
That's another excellent point, which is you don't want to walk away, and this is true for everyone, you don't want to walk away from a part of your compensation because that is one of the ways that the employer is compensating you, but you have to participate in that compensation by making a contribution up to the match.
And that was explained to me by someone not too long ago. You're leaving money on the table, Robert. Why would you do that? Like a diamond through a forehead.
There's questions that don't need answers, right?
Well, we've obviously had a pretty fun show this morning. We're down to our last 20 or 30 seconds. Do remind everybody that if you're 55 and older, you're 5 years to retirement or already retired, we are happy to visit with you for a coaching session at our offices in Olivet. Easy to do. Pick up the phone. Give us a call, 314-863-0008, or go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Hit the Contact Us section. See you next week.